All right, let's kick off this deep dive. Think about your workday, right? How many times do you find yourself saying sorry?
Oh, constantly for some people.
Yeah, maybe for just a slight delay or asking a quick question, even when you need to disagree.
Absolutely. It's especially common in international teams, isn't it? Sorry feels like the go-to polite word, almost a default setting.
It really does. It feels harmless, just smoothing things over.
Exactly. Starts innocently. A gesture of politeness, maybe buying a moment to think. It's reflex.
But here's the thing, our sources really highlight those seemingly small sorries. They can actually subtly undermine your professional presence.
Yeah, they can chip away at it, make you sound less confident, maybe less competent than you really are.
Right. So today, that's our focus. This
Yeah.
deep dive is all about those hidden costs of saying sorry too much at work.
And more importantly, we're giving you a practical toolkit. Assertive, polite alternatives based on our sources.
We're going to unpack strategies, specific phrases, stuff you can use right away to sound confident and clear.
Without being blunt or cold, that's key. You'll get tools for email, meetings, chat, everyday work stuff.
And we'll even start with this concept our sources call an apology audit. It's like a quick checkup.
Yeah, a 3-minute diagnostic, basically. Helps you see your own habits, where these alternatives will make the biggest splash for you.
Okay, good starting point.
Yeah.
But before we jump into the alternatives, we need to be clear, right? Not all apologies are bad.
Oh, absolutely crucial distinction. There are definitely times when a clear, sincere apology is not just okay, it's necessary, essential even.
We're not saying never take responsibility. That's not the message here.
No, not at all.
So when do the sources say a real apology is needed?
Well, they pinpoint 4 key situations. First, if you actually caused a delay or an error that messed up someone else's work, directly impacted them.
Okay, that makes sense. What
So
else?
second, if you missed a deadline you explicitly committed to, you said Tuesday, it's Wednesday, that warrants an apology.
Right, accountability.
Third, if you broke a company policy or, and this is important, created some kind of risk for the team, the project, the company.
Gotcha. Policy or risk. And the fourth?
Fourth is if you gave out wrong information and others relied on it, used it, and that caused a problem.
Okay. Error, missed deadline, broken policy risk,
Yeah.
bad info. Those are the big ones.
Exactly. These are the times for genuine responsibility. No hedging.
And when those happen, it's not just, oops, sorry. There's a better way, right? A structure.
Precisely. Our sources recommend a 4-part structure. It shows real ownership and a path forward.
4 parts. Okay, what are they?
First, you acknowledge the issue. Clearly state what happened. Second, take responsibility. Own your part in it.
Okay, acknowledge, take responsibility. Third,
Third, state the fix. What are you doing right now to correct it? Be specific.
action-oriented. Love it.
All right.
And the last part.
Fourth, explain how you'll prevent it from happening again. What steps will you take so this doesn't repeat? Shows you've learned.
That sounds solid. Acknowledge, responsibility, fix, prevent recurrence. Can you give us an example? Make it concrete.
Sure. So instead of just, sorry I missed the deadline, try this. I missed the Tuesday deadline and that delayed the handoff. That's acknowledging.
Okay.
Then responsibility is implied, then the fix. I've shared the updated file now and booked a 10-0-0 review
Right, immediate action.
and prevention. Going forward, I'll set earlier internal checkpoints for myself so this doesn't repeat.
Ah, I see. Very clear. Takes ownership, solves it, prevents it. That builds trust, doesn't it?
Definitely. Much more effective than a vague sorry.
Okay, perfect. So we know when to apologize sincerely. Now let's get to the main event. All those other times we default to sorry, the ones that might be holding us back.
Right, the confidence killers. Our sources offer 8 powerful alternatives. Ready for number 1.
Let's do it.
Okay.
First up, instead of the classic, sorry for the delay, which, let's be honest, we all say,
All the time.
try, thank you for your patience.
This is a great one. It flips the script, doesn't it? Instead of focusing on your mistake or your guilt,
Right.
you focus on the other person's cooperation. You appreciate them. It's warmer, more professional, keeps the focus positive.
I like that. Gratitude instead of guilt.
Yeah.
So in an email, it's like, thank you for your patience. Here's that updated draft. I've highlighted the changes you asked for.
Exactly. Or in a meeting, maybe you join a bit late. Thanks for waiting, everyone. Let's pick up at the budget discussion.
Or even a quick chat message.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience pushing that fix right now. You should see it in about 5 minutes. Simple, effective.
And the sources mentioned a tip on delivery.
Yeah. Stress, thank, and patience. Keep the tone steady, warm, genuine appreciation.
Okay, good tip. Alternative number 2. When you need someone's time, instead of sorry to bother you,
Which feels a bit like you're imposing, right?
totally. Instead, try something direct like, do you have a minute for X? Or maybe, do you have 2 minutes to confirm these assumptions?
Yes. This shows you respect their time, but you're also making a clear, specific request. No guilt involved, just a direct ask.
It feels more confident, like, you value your own need too, but respectfully.
Exactly. It empowers them to easily say yes, no, or maybe, can we do it in 10 minutes?
So, examples.
Yeah.
Email subject. Quick 5-minute review of slide 7.
Perfect. In a meeting. Do you have maybe 2 minutes to confirm the risk assumptions before we move on?
In a chat.
Got a minute to sanity check this SQL query? Quick, clear. And the tip here is drop weak fillers, like just keep it concise, maybe stress minute, and the specific thing you need, the X.
Makes sense? Okay, number 3. What about when you're confused? Instead of that knee-jerk, sorry, I don't understand.
Which can sometimes sound like you weren't paying attention, even if you were.
Right. Instead, try. Could you clarify X?
This is powerful. It puts the focus squarely on the information you need, not on your lack of understanding. It positions you as proactive, seeking precision.
So you're not admitting fault, you're driving towards clarity.
Exactly. Assertive learning, you could call it.
Okay, examples. Email. Could you clarify which KPI excludes trial users? Is it just ACD or both ACD and ASR? Assuming those acronyms make sense in context.
Right. Or in a meeting. Could you clarify the acceptance criteria for done on this task?
Or a quick chat. Quick clarify. When you say premium, do you mean CUP1 or P2?
Spot on. And the tip. Use a rising intonation on the key thing you need clarified, like clarify ACD. Keep it crisp.
Got it. Number 4. This one's tricky for a lot of people. Disagreement. Instead of sorry, I disagree.
Which can immediately sound confrontational even with the sorry.
Yeah, it puts people on the defensive. Instead, try, I see it differently because...
Yes. This works because you first acknowledge their perspective implicitly. I see it, which builds a little bridge.
Okay, acknowledges the review.
And then you share your reasoning respectfully. You provide the because. It invites discussion, not argument.
Okay, so email example. I see it differently because the last 3 releases show higher churn on annual plans. What if we pilot monthly pricing in Q4 to compare?
Nice. Offering a solution to. Or in a meeting. I see it differently. If we delay this deployment, we'll miss the vendor's window. Maybe a phased rollout could reduce the risk.
Good alternative. Chat example.
I see it differently. That variance looks seasonal to me. Let's compare year over year instead of week over week.
And the tone is key here, I imagine.
Absolutely. Calm, even tone. Stress the because part, the reason. Focus on the logic, not emotion.
Okay. Number 5. This is when something's wrong, but you didn't cause it. Instead of taking the blame with, sorry for the mistake.
Which is easy to do, just to smooth things over.
Yeah. Instead, a try. Good catch fixing now.
This is great. First, good catch acknowledges the issue and gives credit to the person who found it. Win-win.
Right. Positive reinforcement for them.
And then fixing now moves straight to action. No unnecessary guilt, just proactive problem solving. Project's confidence.
Okay. Examples. Email. Good catch on that mislabeled axis. I've corrected the chart and added a note so it doesn't happen again.
Perfect. Meeting. Good catch. Looks like we used UTC instead of local time. We'll rerun that report and share it in an hour.
Chat. Good catch typo in the query. Rerunning now.
Exactly. And the delivery tip. Say good catch, confidently, short and sharp. Avoid nervous laughter or excuses.
Makes sense. Number 6. Running late. It happens. Instead of sorry I'm late.
Which just highlights the lateness.
Try. Thanks for waiting. Here's where I am.
Yes. Again, gratitude first. Thanks for waiting. Acknowledges their time. But then, crucially, you immediately add value.
How so?
You give an update, show you're ready to contribute now, here's where I am, or here's what I reviewed, or I'm ready to discuss X. Shifts focus from the delay to your contribution.
Okay. So, joining a meeting. Thanks for joining now. I had a chance to review the deck, have a couple of thoughts on slides 3 and 10.
Exactly. Or if it was traffic. Thanks for waiting. Traffic was heavier than expected. I'm ready to jump into the consent flow updates.
Or chat, if you're delayed on a task. Thanks for waiting. Just posting that patch now. Give it 2 minutes.
Right. Tip here. Lower, steady tone. Don't rush your words. Deliver one useful piece of information immediately.
Okay, 2 more. Number 7, following up. This can feel awkward, like nagging, instead of sorry to ask again.
Which sounds apologetic for doing your job, really.
Yeah, try. following up to keep this moving.
This is great for project management. It removes the self-blame entirely. The focus is on momentum, on progress, which everyone wants.
It frames you as proactive, a driver.
Precisely. You're not bothering them, you're helping achieve a shared goal.
Okay, examples, email. Just following up to keep this moving. Could you approve that PO today so we can book the installer?
Perfect. Meeting context. Following up on that data extract we discussed, we'll need it by end of day to hit Friday's build target.
Chat. Following up on getting access. Once I'm added, I can run the test suite.
Exactly. And stress the action. Following up to keep this moving. Purposeful.
All right, last one, number 8. Saying no or setting a boundary. Often uncomfortable. Instead of, sorry, I can't do that.
Which can sound negative or unhelpful, even with the sorry.
Right, try. Here's what I can do.
This is incredibly effective. You state your limit clearly, which is healthy boundary setting, but you immediately pivot to being constructive and cooperative.
So you're not just shutting it down, you're offering an alternative path.
Exactly. You sound helpful, solution-focused, not obstructive. It changes the whole feel of the refusal.
Okay, give me some examples. Email.
Okay, getting it all done by Tuesday is tough with my current priorities. Here's what I can do. I can deliver the draft by Wednesday and the full analysis by Friday. If Tuesday is absolutely critical, I'd need another reviewer to help.
That's really clear. Sets expectations, but offers options. Meeting example.
Here's what I can do today. I can validate the schema and share some sample data rows. The full QA process will need about 24 hours.
And check.
Here's what I can do. Provide the API response mock right now. The live endpoint should be ready by tomorrow morning.
And the delivery tip here.
Firm stress on the word can. Here's what I can do. Avoid a hesitant, rising tone. Sound decisive and helpful.
Wow, okay. Those 8 alternatives are fantastic.
Yeah.
Really practical stuff. But as you mentioned, the sources say it's not just the words, right? Delivery matters.
Yeah.
A lot.
Hugely important. Tone and body language, even virtual body language, they amplify everything. They support that assertive politeness we're aiming for.
So what are some key things there? You mentioned posture earlier.
Yeah, posture and camera setup. Sit upright, camera at eye level. It sounds basic, but it genuinely projects readiness and confidence. And strangely, it actually reduces that subconscious urge to fill silences with apologies.
Interesting link. What else on delivery?
Breath and pace. Seriously, before you make a key point, just take one slow breath. It calms you down. Then speak at a controlled pace. Rushing makes you sound nervous.
And nervousness triggers filler words and apologies. Got it.
Exactly. And eye contact, even on video calls. When you deliver that key sentence, here's the plan, or I see it differently because, look right at the camera lens. It builds connection and trust.
Good reminder for virtual meetings. And what about reinforcing this with word choice beyond just the main phrases?
Yeah, it's about actively choosing stronger words overall. Lean into words like will, can, let's, I recommend, the data shows.
Confident language.
Right, and consciously try to cut out hedging words. Things like just, maybe, I think, I'm not sure, a bit. Unless, you actually are unsure and need to be precise about that uncertainty. Otherwise, they weaken your message.
That makes sense. Especially thinking about global teams again. Clarity must be paramount there.
Absolutely. Our sources stress this. Sorry can mean so many different things across cultures. Friendliness, weakness, actual guilt. Trying to guess cultural norms is risky.
So better to be clear.
Much better. Clear, direct, respectful communication is understood globally. Prioritize clarity over guessing politeness cues.
Okay. And any specific tips for, say, communicating with senior leaders using these ideas? Or in really high-stakes situations?
With senior leaders, think brevity plus ownership. Like that example. Thank you for your patience. The fix is live. Here's the impact. Short, factual, responsible.
It's right to the point.
And in high reliability fields, security, medical, aviation, finance, vague apologies are out. You need concrete responsibility statements, clear timelines. Sorry for the inconvenience is meaningless there. It needs to be specific about impact and resolution.
Precision and accountability are non-negotiable there. Okay. This is all incredibly useful. But knowing it is one thing, doing it is another. How do we put this into practice effectively? Let's go back to that apology audit.
Yes, that's step 1 for you, the listener. Take 3 minutes, seriously, just 3. Open your last, say, 20 work messages, emails, chats, whatever.
Okay, 20 messages. What next?
Highlight every single apology. Direct, sorry, but also the indirect ones, my bad. Maybe even excessive use of just or I think. Count them up. Notice where they happen most. Email.chat meetings. what usually triggers them.
Get that baseline data on yourself.
Exactly. Awareness is the first step to change.
Then set a goal.
Yes. Make it a micro goal, something achievable, the sources suggest. Reduce unnecessary apologies by 50% this week using these alternatives. Tangible.
Doable.
50% in a week feels ambitious, but possible if you're conscious. And there's a plan to help with that, a 2-week plan.
Yep, a structured 2-week practice plan to build the habit.
Right.
Week 1 is awareness and substitution.
Okay, break down week 1.
Days 1, 2. Do the audit, get your baseline, then pick just 2 of the 8 alternatives to really focus on first. Don't try all 8 at once.
Start small, then.
Days 3 to 5. Focus like a laser on replacing sorry for the delay with thank you for your patience every single time you catch yourself about to type or say it.
Consistency is key. Days 6, 7. Add the second one. Focus on replacing sorry to bother with do you have a minute for X? Track your progress. Just note when you successfully make the swap.
Okay, week 1 builds the foundation with 2 key phrases. What about week 2? Expansion and confidence.
Now you build on it. Days 8 to 9. Practice using could you clarify X in meetings. Pro tip. Prepare one clarification question before each meeting. Makes it easier to ask.
Oh, good tactic. Reduces the in-the-moment anxiety.
Exactly. Days 10, 11. Integrate I see it differently because. Practice respectful disagreement. Aim to use it just once in a relevant meeting where you genuinely have a different perspective.
One time. Achievable goal.
Day 12. Focus on follow-ups. Use following up to keep this moving in at least 2 emails or messages.
Okay. And day 13.
Day 13. Practice setting boundaries. Find one opportunity to use here's what I can do instead of overcommitting or making an awkward apology.
And finally, day 14 wraps it up.
Day 14. Review. Look back at your messages, your interactions over the 2 weeks. Note the reduction in apologies. But more importantly, observe the outcomes. Did communication feel smoother? Did you get clearer responses? Did you feel more confident?
Reflect and reinforce the positive changes.
That's the feedback loop that makes the habit stick.
This 2-week plan sounds really practical. And there was a checklist, too. Something to use before hitting send?
Yes, a quick self-coaching checklist. Before sending an email or even speaking up, run through these 5 questions.
Okay, what are they?
1. Have I thanked instead of apologized where appropriate? 2. Is my request clear and time-bounded? 3. Did I zap any unnecessary hedging words like just, maybe, a bit?
Okay, clarity and confidence check. What's 4?
4. Is there a clear next action and owner defined? Avoid ambiguity.
Good project management habit, too. And 5.
5. The reality check. If I did actually make a mistake, one of those 4 situations we discussed, did I apologize sincerely once, take responsibility, state the fix, and explain prevention?
That checklist is gold. Run through that mentally, and your communication will instantly level up.
Absolutely. Consistent practice over those 2 weeks, using the alternatives, using the checklist, it really will change how you sound. More respectful, more decisive, more confident, all without those unnecessary sorries.
So there you have it. A deep dive into moving beyond the reflexive sorry to more powerful, assertive, and polite communication. We've covered when a real apology is needed.
And crucially, those 8 practical alternatives for everyday situations, from expressing gratitude instead of guilt, to clarifying proactively, to offering solutions instead of just saying no.
Plus the importance of delivery tone, pace, body language, and that structured 2-week plan to make these changes stick.
By putting these insights into practice, you're not just tweaking your words, you're actively reshaping your professional presence, your impact. This is knowledge you can use literally today.
Definitely. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Imagine how much more effective, how much more influential your interactions could be if they consistently came from a place of clear intention, respect for everyone's time, and confident self-expression, instead of those automatic apologies.
What opportunities might that open up for you in your projects, your collaborations, your career overall? Something to think about.